Hey, what's up? This is Joe. I'm at the 2022 Biketoberfest motorcycle rally, and I wanted to make this video to share with you the trip that I recently took down through the state of New Mexico. Depending on how you look at it, New Mexico is either the land of enchantment or the land of entrapment. A lot of people, once they see it, totally freak out. It's absolutely beautiful and tends to trap people. So if you enjoyed this video, please hit like and subscribe. And as usual, I've included an optional donate link in the drop box if you'd like to contribute to this project. Additionally, check me out on Instagram. I'm doing 100 reels in 100 days. Otherwise, thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the road. Since I left Montana, I've been relatively successful in avoiding getting caught in anything too crazy storm-wise. Doing so had required an almost Herculean effort of staying moving and keeping up on recent weather forecasts. The matter was further complicated by the fact that I had a plane to catch in South Texas in a couple weeks when I would be flying out to Daytona Beach to work Biketoberfest. There were some major storms coming to the Four Corners region, and just about the only place that looked to be spared was high in the mountains, Los Alamos, New Mexico. What followed was an insanely beautiful trip into the mountains and past the enormous Valle Caldera, the epicenter of a giant volcano. I'd stayed in these mountains last year and knew the woods well. Here, I'd hopefully be spared of any severe weather. Nonetheless, I set up my A-frame tarp just in case. All right, well, this is the Vagabond Gourmet version 3.0 or 4.0. I forget which version we're on, but anyway, I got my carne asada, cebolla, and bell pepper. Always good to have a trusty multi-tool when you cook. I think at this point I've probably consumed my body weight in WD-40 because I always, every time I clean it, I spray it with WD-40. Keeps the rust off, keeps everything working. So I hope it's non-toxic. And there she is, Pajita. The next morning I rode through some truly spectacular twisties to the town of Los Alamos. They had a totally bitching 3-story library and there was usually something going on downtown. I'm not going to go into a serious intellectual discussion of this artwork. Suffice to say, this exhibition represents a deep look into the inner workings of the artist's mind. We see isolation, despair, and a shining ray of hope within the darkness. I was reminded of the books of Cormac McCarthy, in particular his novel The Road, which was made into a fantastic feature film. As I mentioned, there's almost always something going on downtown, and this day was the farmer's market. We got some fresh Concord grapes straight off the vine. Anymore, I really like to, if I can find one, eat from a farmer's market. I just feel like it's a lot more healthy, and you're getting kind of a more natural product. They've got a seed, but I don't care about that. These are absolutely my favorite grapes. In spite of the previous night's torrential downpour, my A-frame tarp setup kept me completely dry and comfortable. All right, so unfortunately this air pad has got a leak in it. So I carry a couple of things in my bike. I carry an empty bottle and I carry a little bit of Blue Dawn dish soap. It's a very mild soap, and it's good for cleaning your windshield, cleaning your lights off, good for washing dishes, obviously, good for taking a shower. It's also good for finding leaks in tires. So what I'll do with this stuff is take my empty bottle, which I carry, not much at all. Fill my little empty bottle with a little bit of water. Shake it up, and now this soapy water is ready to apply on my windshield, on my lights, on a tire if need be, or on this air pad. So my suspicion on this is that it's probably the valve stem. This is usually where an air pad's gonna leak, but sometimes you get lucky and you get a hole in another location. Okay, there she is. Right around the valve stem. You can see the bubbles coming out right there. So that should be pretty easy to fix. I've got some seam grip. First I'm gonna dry this area. Obviously I'm doing this early in the morning. Pretty much as soon as I woke up, I got started on it. Because this seam grip stuff takes a little while to dry. I like to leave it as long as possible. Basically this is what it is. 8 to 12 hours. But what I'm gonna go ahead and do is just kind of beef up all this area after it dries, because it's sort of a sharp piece of plastic in there, and obviously it's the valve itself has sort of punched a hole right there. And so I'm just going to kind of beef it up all the way around this kind of area. There the aspens finally turning colors. They are very late this year. Usually beginning of September, when I'm out west riding through the aspens, I start seeing that. Out here on this crazy little mountain trail, obviously I am in the Rocky Mountains still. Not quite as overwhelming as the ones in Colorado and Montana and whatnot. There's some kind of little garter snake. Always a good idea tromping through thick, dense trails like this to sort of make some noise. You don't want to startle anything, especially not a bear. Learned that in Alaska. Make a lot of noise in the bush, especially thick, overgrown bush like this. Don't be afraid to make yourself heard. Yeah, also there's the fact that this is not a very well-traveled path. You don't see a lot of people out here. Look at that. As much as I liked Los Alamos, I was starting to get bored. After a few days of hanging around, I took a trip down to Santa Fe, an interesting railroad town filled with Pueblo-style adobe buildings and some awesome food. All right, so I'm back in Santa Fe. I hear there's an absolutely amazing wood-fired pizza place down here a little ways, so let's go check it out. Hello, is that the pizza oven? Mm-hmm. Can I take a picture?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Pizza margherita from the brick oven we just saw. It's got that nice charring on the sides, indicative of good quality. Oh man, that is so good. It'll blow the top of your head off. Anytime I pass through here, I'm always reminded of a lot of smaller towns in Mexico. The vibe is totally laid back. There's interesting stuff going on everywhere, and a person can easily get lost in the tranquil atmosphere.
He has a brush in the garage.
You know, I fell in love with this place from the first time I came here about 4 years ago. The colors, the Pueblo style adobe, everything. It's just got a very earthy, kind of a very down to earth sort of a vibe. Well, it's finally time to bring the whole thing down. Been out here for about a week in Los Alamos, a little burned out on it. I spent a bunch of time here last year, so I'm gonna go ahead and pull all this down and head south into the desert. Continuing my migratory path to South Texas, I pushed on toward the mysterious town of Roswell. I had a couple of scheduled maintenance items I needed to complete, so I stopped at the Bottomless Lake State Park so I could rest up and begin work on the bike the next morning. The so-called bottomless lakes in this state park are actually sinkholes and range in depth from 17 to 90 feet. Here's a shot of last night's camp. It got so windy I had to anchor everything down just to be able to set up, and then sort of affix as many anchor points as I could to the tent. Wind was coming from this direction. Now I'm gonna get everything packed up and go into Roswell for a new front tire. Roswell was infamously the site of a 1947 UFO crash and subsequent cover-up by the US government. The area is clearly a hotbed of alien activity, and a girl told me last time I was here that right around 4 a.m., all the livestock begin making strange noises and abruptly stop about 30 minutes later. All right, so I'm about to take this front tire off at this church parking lot. The bike shop's over that way. They wouldn't let me take it off in their parking lot. I got a stack of cardboard I'm going to try to put under the center stand, and hopefully this will jack the front wheel off enough that I can get it around that fender. That gives me quite a bit of ground clearance, so I should be able to get that out no problem. All right, so the tire's done. Got rid of that adventure tire, back to street tires. They last longer. So with that being done, only thing left to do is an oil change. When I finished up my bike, I ventured further south into the desert to look for accommodations there. right, so I finally got some kind of a makeshift shelter set up. Absolutely a necessity in a desert climate like this. You got the sun beating down on you. 100% imperative to get a shelter like that up. Wind's coming from that direction, generally that direction, but it's also coming from this direction, that direction, that direction. So I put it behind this big bush. I've barely eaten anything today. I've been working on my bike, so I'm gonna sit down and make something to eat. All right, so this is something very different. Carne adobada. It's got pork, roasted New Mexico chili pods, water, salt, garlic, oregano, and spices. It sounds like one of those kind of uniquely New Mexican type of things. I don't really have any plates and stuff, so I'm just hoping that all this is gonna cook together. If I go ahead and add that on top of the vegetables and stuff, I don't see why not. Obviously not the optimal way to cook, but I think it'll work. Carne adobada. So hungry. Oh yeah. The New Mexico red chilies that they used in this are top of the line, extremely rich flavor. Unlike any other chilies I've had in Mexico, it's very unique. This stuff is really hard to describe. It doesn't really taste like anything else I've ever eaten. It's got a very rich flavor. I'm at a loss for words. The situation with the wind is completely untenable. No way I can pitch a tent out here. So the wind's coming from the south-southeast, which is that way. So ideally, if I move over this way a little bit and find a spot over there, that mountain should sort of keep me out of the wind. Boy, that's kind of a picturesque spot right there. So you guys get to watch me try to get my bike in here. So I'm in the shadow of this mountain, completely out of the wind now, ironically. All I had to do was move a couple hundred yards over this way. But anyway, I was exhausted, overloaded, not having fun, and really hungry. So yeah, this is kind of a nice spot. So I'm all set up. I'm just gonna sit down and sit in there and read my book and just relax, because it's been a busy day. We'll see you in the morning. So I woke up, I guess about 5:30 this morning. It was completely still dark. I got an awesome view of the horizon with the sun starting to come up. So I'm gonna go ahead and put down as many miles as I can before the heavy afternoon winds pick up. New Mexico is called the land of enchantment for a damn good reason. Few other places can boast having such a gorgeous, diverse landscape and mild weather. Nonetheless, I had a bike rally to get to, and after my reprieve here, I turned my sights toward the great state of Texas.